Good morning. I'm sorry I cannot be with you in Washington today. As you may have heard, so as I'm speaking or as you are listening to this video, my wife is giving birth to our third child. So it's one more human to care and worry about, not just for us as a couple and as a family, but also for us as a society. So I was very much looking forward to being here in DC with you in person because I think the title of the conference is very interesting. So data as a development issue, and also because I'm quite passionate about the specific question of whether and how data will affect development in the future. So including for this new baby. And so my name is Emmanuel Letouzé. You can find the bio online on the website. So I will just directly dive into the question, which is of course a very big question. So I will only be able to give you some thoughts and pointers. So I think we are in this moment where so we're entering the second decade of the so-called data revolution in a world that has witnessed a lot of tensions and protests over the past couple of years in different places around the world, as the map suggests. And so we know that there are lots of expectations, but also lots of concerns, frustrations, and fears about what data, the data revolution, new technologies might bring in this context of growing inequalities and so on and so forth. And so some people are wondering whether democracy is dying, what AI and new technologies will whether they're going to help or hurt in this context of growing inequalities. And so one thing, if we look at history, I think one thing that is interesting is that, of course, this is not the first technological revolution, the data revolution or the AI revolution. Overall, over the past hundreds of years, so technology and development have tended to go hand in hand. Measurement has played an important role in and during the Industrial Revolution, and so overall we can say, well, there's a rather positive relationship between technology and development, but it's actually also, as we know, a bit complicated. So those revolutions tend to be very disruptive. They can be destructive. Also, measurement has played a sort of like an ambiguous role at times. So, for example, so statistics as the science of the state is pretty recent in human history. GDP is even more recent. It's only about 90 years old, and we didn't need GDP for living standards to actually start really rising fast. And so I think one of the interesting questions when we talk about data or think about data and development is the extent to which better data, better measurement leads to development, or if it's the other way around, or if it's endogenous. And this little cartoon that I did on the right-hand side tries to sort of capture the ambiguity of this relationship. So if you want to lose weight, you may weigh yourself every morning, but if you don't change anything to your habits, then you're not gonna lose weight. And so in the realm of data development, one of the biggest novelty of the past decade has been machine learning approaches to measuring or estimating development indicators from so-called digital breadcrumbs, so the so-called like big data. And so also this little comic strip that I did about 5-6 years ago illustrates how it's actually possible to estimate those indicators from, say, cell phone data. And the reason is simply that there are systemic correlations between the way a given population uses their cell phone, so how they show in cell phone metadata, and a number of characteristics such as poverty, age structure, of course, population density, and so on and so forth. And so machine learning models can pick up those systematic correlations, and that's sort of like the gist of these machine learning approaches. But at the same time, as I alluded to earlier, it's not sufficient to measure something to affect this something. So it's not sufficient to measure X to affect X if you don't do anything about it. So this cartoon also that I did during a Eurostat conference last year, so in 2019, tries to capture that. So you see this little gentleman saying the data revolution is here. The good news is that we can measure your poverty levels at very fine-grained levels of geographic and temporal granularities, like almost in real time. But the bad news is that we still can't do anything about it. So it's not exactly right, but it tries to point to the fact that there isn't sort of like an easy, nice like translation from measurement to outcome. And this is also captured in this panel on the right hand side. So we did a very simple analysis. So one might say crude, looking at the relationship between across countries. So it's like a cross-sectional analysis between statistical capacity index, which is sort of like a proxy for the quality of statistics in different countries, and their level of GDP per capita. And what we see is that it's pretty scattered. So you see this sort of like upward trend. So meaning that as countries have better statistical capacities or better statistics, they tend to be richer. But first of all, it's indeed pretty scattered, and you can see geography and history playing out if you look at specific clusters of countries. But also, it doesn't say whether the relationship is maybe the other way around, if it's, from GDP to quality of statistics, which of course we know, happens. And also it doesn't say whether it's endogenous, so whether there's like a third set of factors, that are like driving this relationship, which nevertheless appears to be pretty weak. And so one thing that I'm, very interested in with others, such as, so Sandy Pentland at MIT, is, whether we could actually learn better with and from data and with and from artificial intelligence systems which run on data. And so, of course, it comes from this idea that machines are learning today. They are learning through data. And so, for example, cars are learning to drive without humans. Computers are learning to distinguish a beach from a city or a cat from a dog. Google Translate is becoming increasingly good because it keeps on learning based on data and feedback, usually from humans. And so, in a sense, it's like the gist of human evolution and also of evidence-based policymaking to be learning from data, to be learning from understanding, so, what works, what doesn't work, what helps us get to the right results. But still, we don't seem to be very good at doing it because we still do a lot of things that don't seem to be very rational if we were to achieve certain goals such as the SDGs. And so this reflection has led us with Sandy Pentland to work on this idea of a human artificial intelligence, where artificial intelligence systems would not just be tools or instruments at our disposal, but will also be an inspiration. So human systems could try and work a bit more like AI systems, so to learn better from data. And so I think that there are four main requirements for us as humans to be able to do that, which we discussed in greater details and depth in this recent paper with Nuria Oliver, our chief data scientist. And so I don't have time to go in each of them in any level of detail, but basically we have to get, I think, the political economy right. We have to understand that this is all very political, that there are people who have no interest in improving the world with data, and usually those are people in position of power. So that makes it pretty difficult. It's also about instilling a data culture, for example. The second requirement is to get the technology and the science right, including or especially for sharing private data that could fuel these human AI systems. And these data tend to be very sensitive, so issues of privacy are, of course, paramount. Issues of sample bias also are extremely important to fix, to address, if we are to use those kinds of data for public policy decisions. Of course, the ethics, we have to get the ethics and the rights right. So it's about So it's about putting in place governance systems and standards that ensure that people have better control, oversight over the use of their data. For example, the GDPR in Europe is I think goes in the right direction, but much more needs to be done. And of course, there are financial considerations. So questions of what are the business models that we have to put in place to make this sustainable, but also fair to everybody. So, and yeah, financially sustainable over the long run. So, OPAL, the Open Algorithms project that I mentioned at the beginning, is one example of a project, an innovation that tries to get those systems and standards right, to build so like human AI systems. So it's a question and answer system where national statistical offices, for instance, so in Senegal and Colombia, where we're piloting it, can send open algorithms, so queries that run on the private servers of the partner companies, so Orange, Sonatel, and Telefonica in the case of Senegal and Colombia, respectively, and get out some indicators such as population densities, poverty estimations, and later other kinds of indicators and SDGs. And around that, we're also creating some governance model. So that's one, I think, one direction, and one project that captures, I believe, those like 4 requirements or considerations that I mentioned earlier. So the political economy, the science and technology, the ethics and the rights, and the financial aspects, because we're developing a business model to make OPAL sustainable. And then last, I mentioned culture at some point. I really think that we need a cultural kind of revolution. Data is I think the new language, or will be, or should be the new language of the 21st century. So it requires building data literacy, or literacy in the age of data, for children, but also for all of us, to be able and willing to really use data as a lens and a lever to change the world in the 21st century. And so with that, I will stop here. We actually, so I think we can still, there is still a possibility to really change the world with data, as written here. And we just published our overview and outlook report for 2019 and 2020, so which you can take a quick look at, which I think also shows some projects that we've been working on to try and foster the relationship between data and development. Thank you for your time and attention, and have a nice day all. Thank you.